You know, when we start exploring healing practice, if it's for ourselves or if we're looking into holistic healing for ourselves, visiting a healer, so forth, we start hearing those three words together a lot: mind, body, spirit. And it's about the balance between those three. Let's talk about the mind for a moment. When we think about the mind, we tend to think about the physical thing, the brain. And basically, the mind, of course, is in the brain. It's also been said that we have a second brain in our gut and our solar plexus. That's where our intuition is, which is true. But the mind is basically, you could take it like a computer. Think of it as a computer. It takes information, data, information from our five senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. And it takes all that information, millions of bits of information every single day, and stores it. Our mind, our brain has a tremendous amount of storage capacity. And when we sleep, that's when it takes all those millions of bits of information collected for that day and files them away in little file folders and into file cabinets and categorizes those files, cabinets, and so forth. And that's why we have phrases like work-related, or has to do with family, has to do with home. We categorize things or compartmentalize things. And that's what the mind does. And in that way, it helps us to take new knowledge and compare it to information that we already have, so that we have a better understanding of what that information is about. And that's what makes us function in this physical world. Most people, and we're talking 75-80% of the population of the earth, are what we call the physically oriented people. And for instance, this is one of my favorite places. This is my sacred space, Louisville Nature Center. And it's a very spiritual place. There are spirits here, and there are the trees and so forth, all the energy. And yet, a lot of people look at this as a fitness track, which is fine. A lot of them like to jog these trails. It's a really good workout. There's a short trail, 3/4 mile, and then there's a long trail that's 1.5 miles long. But they will jog through here looking down at the trail so they don't trip on anything, and not even noticing all the beautiful flowers and birds and so forth. But they're still taking in that energy. What does this have to do with the mind? Well, a lot of people base their existence on the physicality of life. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. It's what we call earthbound spirits. Their lives are based upon where they live, what kind of home they are living in, what kind of vehicle that they drive, how many vehicles that they have to drive. Nice things. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there are those like myself who are more spiritual people who really don't care, really don't put much emphasis, a lot of emphasis on luxurious things. As long as we have a comfortable place to live and a comfortable vehicle to drive, we're fine. But this planet would be a very boring place if everything was exactly the same and all the houses were just a basic box and all the vehicles were just basic boxes. It's because of those who live in that physical realm. It's because of people like that they create beautiful things, beautiful homes, beautiful buildings. And if it weren't for them, it'd be pretty boring. So what am I getting at? What I'm getting at is we are all important in our own way. And we should not look down upon anyone just because they think differently from ourselves. And so, for those who are earthbound, that's who you hear the phrase, "I'll believe it when I see it," comes from. Or I've even had conversations with some where their entire conversation was what something was, what a material thing was, and how much it cost, and a car that somebody driven and how much that car cost, and so forth. And that's fine, because people like that help keep people like spiritual-minded people anchored and keeps them from flying away. Keep spirit-minded people grounded. The mind is also home of the ego. Let's talk about that a minute. When we think about the ego, we tend to think of a person who's narcissist. Yeah. And a narcissist is someone who is driven by ego. And it takes them a lot of places. It takes them to a lot of good places, and sometimes it takes them to a not so good place, a very bad place. The ego, believe it or not, it's what stands in our way of being the best we can be. And why would I say that? Because if your ego tells you, hey, you're fantastic and you can do all this, you can succeed, and you do succeed, isn't that a good thing? Well, yeah, it is. It is. It can also be a place of fear. It could be a place where you don't want to go there because what if you're successful and you can't handle that success? It also has the guise of, well, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve nice things. And how can that be in the ego? Because we've gone from I'm fantastic to I don't deserve this. Well, it is the ego, because we are children of the universe, okay? And the universe wants us to thrive. The universe wants us to be successful and be the best we can be so that we can be the best we can be for others. And so, if we say, I don't deserve what the universe wants to give me, that's like telling the universe that I know myself better than the universe does, and I say that I don't deserve this. You see how that works? Now, but the universe wants us to be the best we can be, our greatest good. And we never want to turn that down. But the way we receive that is by getting rid of that ego and being grateful and allow these blessings to come in. And that leads us to the spirit, which we will talk about in another video. But for now, the mind, it's our computer. And it can stand in the way of our spirit if it's out of balance. And in some ways, when we worry, we bring a lot of energy to the crown, to our mind, and that takes energy away from the solar plexus, and we get sick in our gut, which is not a good thing. When we give a lot of energy to our mind through anger and through worry, what if this happens? What if that happens? What happens? What do we feel? It affects our body. It affects our gut. And why is that? Well, our gut is our intuition, and it's called our second brain. And when we worry like that, when we spend too much time in our minds, and we've heard that phrase, get out of your own head, when we spend too much time there, it takes the energy away from here and puts it up here. And it brings stress up here. It puts too much energy up here. It causes headaches. It makes us sick in our gut because the energy that's supposed to be there, that is running our gut, making our intestines work, making all of our vital organs down there, the liver, the pancreas, all that energy down there is supposed to be working those organs. It's no longer down there, it's up here, working the mind, overworking the mind. And that's why we have digestive problems. We have problems with creativity because it affects our lower energy center, our sacral chakra, as people know it, the center of creation. We no longer think clearly. And so when we give too much attention to our mind, that's when we start having problems with the rest of our body. And that's why there's that triangle, mind, body, spirit. That's why they have to be balanced. And that's why we're having these conversations. So we'll talk about the body next time. Until then, blessings.